When the Moon Cried. It's an old story. It's a long story. Very long. You could make a movie out of it. It would be like a Lord of the Rings kind of movie, yeah, because there's so many characters in this story, and there's like 3 scenes in the story, and all these things are happening at the same time, and it's an epic. This is what's really cool about these stories. I'll describe the scenes for you. In one scene, it happens at a certain time period in which there's no humans on the earth yet. There's plants, there's various animals, there's only one continent. It's like the earth in its natural state, but without people. So it must have been wonderful. But there were 2-leggeds on the earth, but they were not human. Who do you think they were? Who do you think they were? They were 2-leggeds on the earth at this time, but no humans. Who do you think they were? There's probably a lot of people saying, oh, they're aliens. That's what they were. No, there were no aliens. There's an animal that most people, when they see this animal, they see it like it has 4 legs. And so they see this animal as a 4-legged. But it isn't. It is 2-legged. Who do you think it is? I'll let you think that one out, but I'm going to continue the story. It's one of the animals that lives in the forest. When you see it, you think it's walking on 4 legs, but actually it's considered 2-legged. And it represents wisdom. So they were here, but the humans weren't here yet. There wasn't even such a thing as a human at all. But there were people living under the earth, and they were called Pte Oyate. A lot of people think that Pte Oyate means the Buffalo Nation. No, it doesn't. Buffalo is Ptechchaka. Now, some people make mistakes here too. They think that the word for buffalo is Tatranka. No, it's not. Tatranka is a buffalo bull. It's a male buffalo adult bull. So Tatranka does not mean buffalo in general. It's talking about the bull. It's just the bulls. But the word for buffalo is Ptechchaka. So when you want to say Buffalo Nation, you say Ptechchaka Oyate. Pte Oyate is something different. And humans are called Ikje Oyate. Now, humans and buffalo evolve from the Pte Oyate. There's another story in which one group comes on the earth first, and they turn into humans. So they're called Ikje Oyate. Then they get into a predicament in which they almost become extinct. And they're saved by the second group that comes out. The rest of them come out. And that group, when they come out on the surface of the earth, they turn into buffalo. So they're called Ptechchaka Oyate. This is why we consider the buffaloes as our closest relatives, because we both evolve from the same being called Pte Oyate. But in this story, there's no buffalo on the earth, and there's no humans on the earth yet. The Pte Oyate are still living under the earth. And at this time period in the story, the leader of the Pte Oyate is named Wazia. He's a very wise person. And his wife, her name is Wakanka. This means mysterious. And she she is able to see into the future. However, she teaches something about the future. She says that it changes all the time. It's because you change. Your thoughts change every second. So if you were to look into the future right now, you will see something. But a minute later, it's going to look different. It might be similar because your thought is still there, but it's altered. If you look tomorrow, same time, it's going to be different because your brain is thinking different thoughts. Or maybe you've thought on it a long time and you thought, maybe that develops it, so it fine-tunes it. Sometimes when you're thinking on something, if you look into the future, you see something, but the more that you tune it, the more that you think about it, if you look in the future again a couple of days later, it's going to either be fine-tuned or it might be something different. But the thing is, it's changing. It's not written in stone. This is what we learn from Wakanka. This is possible to do. From Wakanka, we learn about visualization, that however you would like your life to be, or you're trying for something, you set a goal or something, and every day you're supposed to take time to visualize that you're already there, that you already have it, or you're already at your goal. So you take some time to enjoy that as if you already have it. That makes you feel good. You're getting medicine. But at the same time, what you're doing is you're implanting that pattern into your brain so that it's going to focus more on that. And that's going to open up your deeper consciousness to get inspiration and ideas on getting there. That's why you visualize, to bring that and put that pattern on you, and then you get ideas, like I said. So these are the kind of things that we learn from Wakanka. She's a kind of a sacred person. Anyway, they had a daughter named Ite. She's a very beautiful lady, but she was also very warm. She wasn't vain. She's physically beautiful, but she's not a vain woman. She's very humble. She's very soft-spoken, and she's a delight to be around because she's just a nice person. She's generous, and she's really, in Lakota, we say, washtechake. Everything I said, that's what washtechake means. That's what she was like. So this is one scene. There's some things that happen there. Another scene is kind of related to the scene I just told you. In this one, it's a side storyline in which we have the wind who transforms into a Pte man. He wants to go among the Pte Oyate to help them in whatever way he can. He's very helpful. So he wants to go down there and help them out. And as he's going among the people, he earns a reputation. He's just helpful. He's very warm, he's very kind, he's humble, he's generous, and he's always helping, especially old people. He helps them with things and stuff like that. Also, he earns their trust because of the way he is and the way he lives and his service to the people. He earns their trust. And so they call him Kola. This is where that word comes from. And then later on, as Lakota language comes on the earth, the word Kola means best friend. But only men say this word. Only men say Kola. Women are not supposed to say that word. For women, it's mashke. This is the friend that you trust with your life. The friend that you will die for. And they will die for you too if they have to. They trust you with their life. That's for men, kola, and for women, mashke. Today, a lot of people think that kola is all your friends who are boys and that mashke is all your friends who are girls. That's wrong. That is 1,000,000,000% false. For one thing, only males say kola to their male best friend, and only women say mashke to their female best friend. If you have a best friend that's the other gender, you call them brother or sister depending on what they are. But for same gender, guys say kola to their male best friends, and girls say mashke to their female best friends. Now, I said that 3 times now. So try to remember. People on the internet really get this wrong. One time, one of the, I think it was the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe forum, some girl wrote in there, "How to all my kolas and mashkes," she said, as if Lakota has the plural S. And she got that totally wrong. And for the first violation she made was women don't say how. Only men say how. Women say huh. There's a difference. And I just explained to you what kola and mashke means. And mashke is another woman who has earned your trust. And you've earned her trust. So that's not every female. Same thing with guys. Kola was used for guys who earned each other's trust. And later on, warrior societies use that. When you're in the same warrior society, you call each other kola because you trust each other with your lives. And women who are in the same women's societies called each other mashke because they trust each other too. Because there's different women's societies just like there's different men's societies. So I have to really explain that because a lot of people make that mistake today. Anyway, so his name was Kola. The wind transformed into a Pteh man, and he went among the Pteh Oyate under the earth, and he helped people so much that he earned all their trust. They really loved him because of the kind of person he was. And so, see, it's how you live your life. The wind is not Lakota. The wind is the wind. And as a Pteh person, there was no races. They were just Pteh Oyate. They weren't even human yet. Pteh Oyate are human in form, but they're not human. And they're not animals either. They're something different. See, here is that 3 different perspectives thing. That it's not either this or that. It's this, that, and the other. So he earns their trust and they give him this name Kola. Like I said, he is an honorable man. An honorable Pteh Wichasha. Pteh man. Okay, so that's a side adventure that's related to the story. There's a whole bunch of adventures that he goes through. And then he meets Ite. Yeah? That's where these 2 stories combine. And they fall in love. Because like attracts like. See, that Lakota Star Knowledge concept? Like attracts like. They're just like each other. So they attracted each other. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that happened. And they get married. And she has 4 sons for him. And she's pregnant with a 5th child inside of her womb. So that's where those 2 stories meet up with each other. Now let's go to the 3rd mini story. In this one, the Wakatanka. The Wakatanka is an organization. It's not God. A lot of people think today that Wakatanka means God. Today you hear Lakota people, when they say their prayers, they say, "Oh, Tunkashila Wakatanka," and they go on and on and on. Or they'll say, "May Tunkashila bless you. May Wakatanka bless you." They'll say things like that. We never said those things. That just started in the 1900s when Indians were becoming Christianized on the reservation. It was actually the priest who changed the words to define Christian ideas. That's another story. In the beginning of the reservation, we couldn't leave, and we were not allowed to hunt for our foods or vegetables. Yeah, hunting vegetables. I mean, gathering vegetables. I'm going to go hunt a turnip. That's what we say. It's serious, eh? We're going Timsila hunting. Seriously. Because they're hard to find. It's a turnip. Timsila is a wild turnip. And we weren't even allowed to eat our own foods. We had to eat whatever the government gave us. And because of that, we became physically weak and sick. And we developed diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. I'm talking from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. This is the beginning of the reservation. As I said, they couldn't leave. And in April 10th, 1883, the United States made a law that said all Indian languages and ceremonies are now illegal. So in public, we were not supposed to do these things. So then we were hit emotionally and spiritually. So we were hit physically because we're getting all these diseases from eating unhealthy foods that America is giving to us. And we were hit emotionally because we couldn't speak our language in public. And we were hit spiritually because we were not allowed to do our ceremonies. And that leaves only one part of the self left. That is the mind. And that's how we became weak-minded. Those are the four parts of the self: the physical body, the emotional part, the spiritual part, and the mind. So those four parts are connected. So in the early days of the reservation, we were hit in three of the four parts, and then we became weak-minded. Then America made a law that split up the reservation and put it 160-acre parcels, and every family had to live on one of those parcels. And this meant that we couldn't see each other all the time. So that was the breakdown of our community way of thinking. And then the churches came, and they were telling the Indians that if they come to church, they'll see all their relatives. So they looked forward to going to church so they could see everybody again. And like I said, they were weak-minded at this time because of the things that I just explained. And then they started to accept what the priests were saying. The priests were saying that most of the Lakota beliefs conflict with the Bible, so that means Lakota spirituality is from Satan. That's what they said. And so they used Lakota words to define Christian things. And that's when they started using the word Tangasilan to mean God. And they started using Wakantanka to mean God. And this is false. This is false. Tangasila, it has three definitions. One is it's a certain kind of helper spirit. The second definition is it's a grandfather. And the third definition is the President of the United States. Seriously. Those are the three definitions, but it is not God, because there is no God in Lakota Star Knowledge. So Wakantanka's organization, in fact, there's more than one Wakantanka. And it's not about which one is better or which one is the good one. They just work differently. That's why they have different organizations, but they all have the same goal. This shows you that we're not dogmatic. That sometimes there's several ways to achieve the same thing. So we don't have that, oh, it must only be this way. That's dogma. We don't have that in our way. So the Christian priests changed a lot of Lakota words to define Christian concepts. So most Lakota people today are not really using those words correctly. So I have to interject that here really quick. Now let me return to that third portion of this bigger story, this When the Moon Cried story. In this third segment, We have members of the Wakantanka that meet on certain places on the earth, and they discuss certain things concerning creation, concerning the earth, the moon, the sun, things like that. They have all these different sacred matters that they discuss, and they have certain songs and certain types of discussions. That's why they meet. Every time they meet, they come in and they discuss things, and then after everyone is there, the counselor comes in. The counselor is not a member of the Wakantanka, but he is their counselor. His name is Ksa. Ksa has a funny appearance. He walks funny. He looks kind of funny, and so the people would laugh. Another thing to remember is that this is the beginning of this earth. So a lot of these members are young. They're still developing too. And so they're not mature yet at that time. Some of them are mature, but some of them aren't. But after a while, they settle down, they apologize, and they say, oh, we don't mean to hurt you, and if your feelings were hurt, we're really sorry. They always apologize afterwards, but he just looks funny. He's just a funny-looking guy. So that's why they laugh. Well, after thousands and thousands and thousands of years of this, he gets tired of it. And he decides he's going to play a trick on the Wakantanka, because he doesn't want them laughing at him anymore. That is the third scene. So you have all these different adventures happening. The first two that I told you, I showed you how they join with the marriage of Kola and Ite, and that she had 4 boys for him. And at this time of the story, she's pregnant with the 5th child in her womb. Okay, now the third part that I just told you, that's going to join this first 2 parts. And how that happens is Ksa, I'll just call him the counselor, okay, so you know who I'm talking about. The counselor has this idea to trick the Wakantanka. He wants to belittle the Wakantanka. He wants revenge. So this is going to teach you about revenge, this part of the story. So he has this idea. Now I have to come back to the first 2 segments. As Ite, this really beautiful Pte woman, as she is pregnant with the 5th child inside of her, her mother, remember, her mother is the woman who sees into the future. She sees that Kola is Wakantanka, which is true. He's the wind. He's one of the members of the Wakantanka. And she sees that in the future, the 4 boys are going to be Wakantanka too. So where does that leave Ite? So they would like to see their daughter become Wakantanka too, so that the family will always be together. That's what she desires. The counselor picks up on this, because this guy's really wise. He senses things. He's like a Jedi. Yeah? There's been a disturbance in the universe. Or how do they say that? I feel a disturbance in the universe. One of the astronauts farted on the moon, yeah? I feel a disturbance. Off guy. Anyway, Ksa is kind of like that. Yeah, like I said, he's known for his wisdom. I should say the counselor. The counselor He senses things, yeah? He's like a Jedi. He senses things. And so he sensed this about Wakanka, the woman who sees into the future. He senses her concern. So he says, now I can weave my tale of revenge. I'm giving a big clue here. So he comes to have a meeting with Wakanka. They meet, and then he says to her, I feel your concern. He says, yes, it's true that Kola is Wakantanka, and that in the future, those 4 boys are going to be Wakantanka too. So I feel your concern that you would like to see Ite, the boy's mother, to also be Wakantanka. And he said, I can help you. I have an idea. I have a potion here. Have her drink this every day. And every day she's going to get even more beautiful than she already is. Then at the next Wakantanka meeting, he said, I'm going to present her to the Wakantanka people. And they're going to really like her. And they're really going to like looking at her. And they're not going to want her to go away. So then they will make her Wakantanka. So now the whole family will be Wakantanka. So Wakanka, the woman who sees in the future, she says, okay, I'll talk this over with my husband, and then we'll meet again. So he says, okay. So she discusses this with her husband, Wazia. Remember, he is the leader of the Pte Oyate under the earth. He doesn't want to do it at first. I don't know. This is not right to deceive anybody. And to deceive the Wakantanka. These are the creators. And who are we to deceive them? This is not our battle. But then Wakanka comes back with the counter-argument. But if we don't do anything, this family is going to be broken up. Ite will be alone. And she won't be able to be a mother to her children. So they have a dilemma. So the father, Wazia, reluctantly agrees to this plan. So they meet with Ksa, the counselor. He gives them the potion, and they secretly put it in the drink of Ite. It has no taste. So she doesn't realize that, but the people are noticing that she's getting more beautiful as time happens. And she doesn't understand it either. But as people are starting to just go, oh, wow. She's starting to become vain. Now she's slipping. She's changing from a healthy woman to an unhealthy woman. She's starting to become vain and superficial, pretentious, little bit of arrogance starting to come in to her personality. She thinks she's too good for everybody. Then the time comes. Now the Wakantanka are meeting, so the counselor announces when the meeting is going to happen. The leader of the Wakantanka, his name is Shkan. And he tells the counselor to tell the people we're going to meet, and we're going to meet at this location. And sometimes when their meetings are very sacred, they have certain garments that they have to wear. And if it's just a meeting of general discussion, they don't wear those garments. So Shka, the leader of the Wakantanka, tells the counselor this is a sacred meeting, so that means they have to wear their sacred garments at the meeting. So he said, tell everybody to be there at a certain time and we're going to have a sacred discussion. So the counselor says, okay, so he goes tells everybody this information, except the moon. He tells the moon a different instruction. He tells the moon, yeah, we're meeting at this location, And, it's going to start at a certain time, but he gives her a different time than the others. And then he tells the moon, this is not a sacred meeting. And up to this point, see, the counselor is known for his wisdom. So the moon, who's female, she did not doubt the counselor. She believed him. So she said, okay, I'll be there. So now the meeting starts. And everybody's there except the moon. And Shkun comes in last. He's the leader. The leader comes in last. He's not there yet. So the counselor comes and he gets Ite, the daughter of Wakanka. This is that Pte woman, that really pretty Pte woman that has now become vain. But she's incredibly physically beautiful. So he comes to get her and he takes her to the meeting. And when he brings her in, he gives her a special clothes to wear. So when he's bringing her in, the male members of the Wakantanka, suddenly they're like, wow, they can't take their eyes off of her. And the son, he wants to have sex with her right away. He's really, really lusting after Ite. The thing is, that's a problem, because the son, at that time, the Star Knowledge story says the sun traveled with the moon. And what this means is they were married. That the sun and the moon are married to each other, and that the moon traveled with the sun. And what that means is that at one time, the moon, her rotation was around the sun. So that's how that was at that time period. Okay. The moon's position is next to her husband. Whenever they meet, the sun and moon sit beside each other. So her sitting place, the moon's sitting place is beside the sun. And remember, the moon is not there yet. She thinks she's coming on time, but she's actually coming late. And she's not wearing her special garments. So, the sun says to Ite, this really pretty Pte woman, he says, here, sit beside me. And so he puts this Ite in the moon's place in their circle. So there's another woman there. And he can't take his eyes off of this woman. He's feeling her up and he's just really lusting after her. Just then the moon comes walking in. And she sees that there's another woman in her place. And that her husband is just lusting after that woman. Then she throws her hair in front of her face, turns around, and goes out crying. Because she doesn't have her special garments on either. She feels like a fool. As she's leaving, she runs into Shkun, the leader of this group. And he says, why aren't you wearing your garments? And then she said, the counselor told me not to. Shkun said, why are you late? And she said, the counselor told me to come at this time. So now Shkun knows there's something wrong. So he says, come with me, we're going to straighten this out. Let's go to the meeting and let's see what's going on. Let's get to the bottom of this. And Shkun, like I said, is the leader of the Wakantanka. And because of him, life is on the earth. But this is not God. So please don't equate this to the Christian God, because it's not. This is something different. This is what allows us to live on the planet. Our stories say, when you look at the sky and there's no clouds in the sky and it's clear blue, that blue is Shkun. That's who that is. So you're looking at things like the ozone layer, which is protecting us from harmful radiation and stuff, and that allows us to live. And Shkun and Kola are best friends. They're like brothers. They're really best friends. And Kola is the wind. When he comes to the Wakantanka as a Wakantanka, his name is Tate. So he's coming now. And then he sees what's going on too. He sees that his wife, Ite, is really letting another man feel her up. And the moon, see, her husband is the sun. And she sees her husband feeling this woman up. So both of them are brokenhearted. They caught their partners cheating with each other. So Shkan is like pure love. And when anything unhealthy is in the presence of Shkan, it tries to escape. Because the power of love is that powerful. See, unhealthy energy cannot stand healing. So then right away everybody at the meeting can't just run away, because that part of them being Wakantanka means that if there's a meeting they have to stay. So Shkan is asking them, what's going on here? Why is this Pte woman sitting in the seat of a Wakantanka? She is not Wakantanka. Why is she here? Why was she allowed in this meeting area to begin with? So the first thing he did was he told Ite to leave, to get out of that sitting place. That is not your place. Get out of there. And then he places the moon in a different location. He says the moon and the sun no longer are together. He also says to Tate that what your wife did was really a bad thing and she cannot be married to Wakantanka anymore. And Tate agrees. He's brokenhearted, but he agrees that this cannot be. If she were allowed to stay, that would violate the universe. So they have to be divorced. And as that divorce is being decreed, she goes into labor. And she has the 5th child prematurely. It's a little boy. And so the daughter of Shkan comes to this area next. And she takes the little boy. And she says, I'm going to watch over him until this matter is settled. So she takes that baby away from Ite. And Ite is all freaking out because now she realizes everything that she did was wrong. And once she started drinking that potion, now she's feeling guilt. And she's trying to apologize, but Shkan says it's too late. You went too far. You went too far. The counselor is there and he's trying to avoid Shkan. But eventually Shkan talks to the counselor. The counselor cannot lie. In the presence of pure healing power, you cannot lie. You cannot tell a lie. So he's telling the truth, and he tells what happened. He tells about that potion and that pact he made with Ite's parents. Everything comes back to the counselor. First of all, Shkan says for Ite, the pretty Pte woman. Remember, she gave birth to the 5th child, and Shkan said, you're not worthy to be a mother. You're no longer a mother to these boys. They deserve better. It's obvious that all you're thinking about is yourself. You become a selfish woman. You violated your sacred calling of motherhood and of being a woman. So he says, you can keep that pretty face, but a second one is going to grow right beside the pretty face, and it's going to be incredibly ugly. So now you're going to have 2 faces. This is because of what you did. You're the one who's creating that second face. It's not me. So as he's saying this, her head turns and then a second face starts to come out from her head. And people really back away. They're like, that's just, they get scared. because it's so ugly. And so she tries to cover it with a cloth, and then Shkan says, you're going to walk the earth forever. You'll never have any more children. You'll never have a man or a partner. All that's over for you. He said, this is your fate. You created it. This is the consequences of your actions. You have to be responsible for whatever consequences that happen because of something you chose to do. You have to accept those consequences and live with it and somehow make the best of it. And her name changed to Anung Ite, the double-faced woman. And then when he said to the sun, you're no longer married to your wife, something happened to the sun. A huge solar flare came out of the sun, and it hit the moon on one side, and it caused the moon to go off its rotation around the sun. So now the moon was falling and falling and falling, and the earth caught her. The earth's gravity caught her and helped to heal her. So from that time, the earth and the moon really have a special sisterhood. And they create mashke, best friends, for girls, for females. That's mashke. And that's why one side of the moon is damaged. We knew this millions of years ago. But today scientists learned that, once their lunar thing that landed on the moon and they were able to see the dark side of the moon and they said, gee, it's all bombed up. This is coming from that story. We already knew about that. Of course, today's astronomers say that, it collided with another planet, or the moon is actually a piece of the earth, or the moon is actually a piece of another planet. They come up with all these things, but Lakota Star Knowledge says this happened. So we already knew that the other side of the moon was damaged because of the sun. And that's why they're divorced. So whenever the moon comes into the path of the sun, she turns her back to him. So when we see moonlight, or when we see the moon, that's her back. Because she never will face the sun again. That's interesting, isn't it? And then the parents, Wazia and Wakanka, of this now double-faced woman were brought to Shkan. And Shkan asked them, why did you enter this pact with the counselor? And Wakanka was trying to justify this by saying she knew that Kola was really Wakantanka, and that his Wakantanka name is Khate, and that the 4 boys, her grandsons, in the future are going to become Wakantanka, and they did. Today they're the 4 directions. They made the 4 directions, so they're members of the Wakantanka today. So she's correct in that. And she said she felt it wasn't fair that her daughter wouldn't be in this, and she thought this would help her daughter get in. So Skan said, but the thing is, she became vain, and she started to like it, to get men to lust after her. She liked that, when men lusted after her, and she became selfish. How can somebody like that be in the Wakantanka? So he said, yes, you saw the future, but this goes to show you the future's not written in stone. Because you didn't see this meeting. You didn't see your daughter getting a second face. So the future is not written in stone. That's something you should know, he said. You should know that the future's not written in stone. But you tried to force it, and it backfired. So he divorced the old couple too, and sent them on the earth too. So the old lady walks the earth, and the old man was sent to live in the north. That's why the north direction has Wazia in that name. Waziata is north. Yata is one of the four guys who creates the four directions. He lives up there with his grandfather. That's another story. Anyway, so 3 divorces. Tate and Ite, the sun and the moon, and Wazia and Wakanka. So then Shkan now addresses the counselor and says, why did you do this? And the counselor said, I'm tired of these others laughing at me all the time. So I wanted to get revenge. So Shkan says, you were known for your wisdom, but because you were more concerned about what others thought of you, you lost clarity and you lost wisdom. Because they always apologize to you and they say they're sorry and they're learning, but you still wanted revenge. Revenge is never justice. Never. And so while he's saying this, the counselor throws himself on the ground. He's trying to crawl into the earth to escape the presence and power of love coming from Shkan. And so Shkan says to the counselor, that's what you're going to be now. Now you're Iktomi. He's trying to get away like a spider digging into the ground. That's the word for spider too, in Lakota, by the way. So he says, now you're no longer the counselor, now you're the trickster. And any time you try to trick a healthy person, your trick will backfire on you. And so this is how Iktomi came to be. He's always telling people, hey, do you know what those guys said about you? Oh, what'd they say? They said you guys are really funny looking. Let's go beat them up. So he goes to the other group and he said, did you hear what them guys said about you? But they think you guys are really dumb. The next thing you know, they listen to him. They think he's telling the truth. And so he gets people to attack each other. He's trying to trick everybody. That's his pattern now. But if you're a healthy person and you look at what he does, you see something under there. What he's really doing is he's trying to teach you about duality. If you can figure that out, you see that Iktomi is actually a teacher. But it's a real difficult one. So that's what happened from the story. When the moon cried. Now, don't say that just because these guys did some selfish things that they're bad. Because in Lakota Star Knowledge, there is no good versus evil. They were not bad people. They made bad choices, but that does not make them bad. Because there's going to be other stories that happen later where they do really incredible things and that we learn from them. From these incredible things, we learn sacred teachings. So they made a mistake, but it wasn't the end of the world. Shkan never said, oh, now you're evil and you're going to hell. He never said that because that doesn't exist. No, they changed later. Wakanka, the mother of Ite, the grandmother of those boys that make the four directions, that lady gave us our medicine wheel. They made a mistake, but then later on they end up doing really good things for the people. So, never call somebody bad when they make a mistake. You just hope that they learn from it, like these guys did. Later on, Anung Ite and some of these people are going to be a part of another Wakantanka organization. So see, they evolve. But it's not good versus evil. Always keep that in mind. That's one thing you can learn from the story, is that when somebody makes a mistake, don't call them bad. We all make mistakes. That's a part of our learning process. But it's our responsibility to learn from it and make the best of it, and from that comes wisdom. And that's what happens to these Wakantanka people too. And these other people like Anung Ite and Wakanka and Wazia and Ikdomi, from them we get teachings too. So they evolve. Those guys are going to be a part of the second Wakantanka. And remember, it's not about good versus evil or which one is better. They just work differently. They just accomplish it in different ways. Okay, so when the moon separated from the sun and started revolving around the earth, this created the women's cycle and also the men's cycle. This is really, really important here. Also, because the moon did not do anything unhealthy, womankind, in honor of the moon, receive 3 gifts in their bodies. So now womankind, at that time in the story, rise above men. At that time, there was no balance between men and women. Because at that time, women received 3 more developments. See, as humans, we all have 4 stages of development. But after the story, women received 3 more. And that's what put us out of balance. But later, as time goes on, see, the sun learns from this too. He learns from this experience, and then he's evolving. Men are given 3 ceremonies to balance out the 3 extra developments that women receive. Which means there are 3 ceremonies women are not supposed to be doing, because they have something similar that happens inside their bodies. This comes from Lakota Star Knowledge. So the cycle of the man has to do with these 3 ceremonies. This is a really ancient thing. And when that happened too, the language changed. So now women started ending their sentences one way, and men ended their sentences in another way. And our language is still like that today, those of us who still speak it. So at this point, like I said, men received 3 ceremonies in honor of the sun, so that we can come into balance with women. Which means to keep that balance, to maintain that balance, to nurture that balance. Women are not supposed to be in these 3 ceremonies. Those ceremonies are Inipi, the sweat lodge, Wiwayang Wachipi, the sun dance, and Humbletia, crying for a vision. These are male ceremonies. Now, those of you who have any knowledge of how things are today, you know that these are being violated grossly today. When women do these ceremonies, they're upsetting the balance again. It's like taking their hearts out and throwing it on the ground. Now our nation is dead. Every time a woman participates in one of these three ceremonies, she's ripping her heart out, throwing it on the ground, and killing her nation. It's a really old story. Not many people know that story today. That's why they're violating it. Today, women think like Western women, and they say, well, if a man can do it, a woman can do it too. This is not true. Because reverse that statement. If a woman can do it, a man can do it too. Is that true? Hell no. We cannot get pregnant. We cannot deliver. These are all natural things, and we cannot do those things. So we have to do something else to maintain this balance. And if women do that something else too, then they upset the balance again. In my lifetime, I've heard several really old Lakota grandmothers in their 90s say that the day a woman can go in a sweat lodge, do a sun dance, and do a crying for vision ceremony is the day that a man can get pregnant. I've heard several old Lakota ladies say this in my lifetime. They still knew that knowledge. They were not Christians. And what they're saying is the truth. That's really ancient knowledge there. And now today, most people don't know this, or if they hear this, they disagree. And they say, well, if a man can do it, a woman can do it too. That's not Lakota thinking. So there are certain things that men do, and there are certain things that women do. And they can complement each other if they want to, but neither one is more important than the other. So when men do these three ceremonies, it doesn't make them better than women. It just means they're coming into balance with women. So just because women can't go to those ceremonies, it doesn't mean that they're less than. Not at all. And this is also the reason why only men are supposed to wear eagle feathers. It's also the reason why only men sit at the drum. It's also the reason why only men can have pipes. It all has to do with this story. These are things that we have to do to come back into balance with women. It doesn't make us better at all. So when a woman says that, well, if a man can have a pipe, then a woman can have a pipe. After all, it was a woman who brought the Lakota people the pipe. Yes, a woman did bring the white buffalo calf pipe, but it was not her pipe. She was a messenger. She's the daughter of Sicangu. I already told you about who that is. She just brought it, but it did not belong to her. When she addressed the Itazipco-Lakota people who received this pipe, she says, my father heard you. She's not talking about God. She's talking about Sicangu. That's her father. A lot of Christian Indians say that she's talking about God. No, she's not. So, when you look at these cultural things, you have to look at it through the eyes of the Lakota perspective and not the Western perspective, not the dualistic perspective, not the women's lib perspective or the feminist perspective. You have to look at it through the Lakota perspective. So this is really, really important. So those of you who have been to the reservations, you've been to sun dances, and you've been to sweat lodge ceremonies, now you can see how gross the violation is today. And now people burn sage and they say it's to keep away the evil spirits. There is no such thing. In Lakota Star Knowledge, there is no such thing. That's a Catholic influence from the early 1900s when we became Christians, as I explained earlier. So there's a lot of things wrong with the ceremonies of today. There's a lot of violation. There's a lot of unhealthy energy. Some things require that you speak Lakota, and that's not being followed. That's not being honored today. What I'm discussing here, like I said, this is a really epic tale, and I really gave you the shortcut version here, yeah? This Anung Ite represents duality. She's teaching what duality is. But she's also teaching to look at everything. When you're looking at something, that you look at everything. That you don't just look at the part that you like. That you don't just accept the part that you like, but you look at the whole thing and try to learn from it as much as you can. And there's other things about Anung Ite that are really special too, that come later. Like, for example, sometimes there's children born who have both the male and female perspective in their minds, in their brains. These are sacred people. She brought that to us. And through those people, we receive healing. These are not gay people. Today, people make that mistake. They think that gay people and lesbians come from that. No, they don't. That's something different. Homosexuality is a whole different concept. So, this information is all coming from Lakota Star Knowledge. This is really ancient stuff. And today, it's grossly violated. That's sad. Like I said, concerning when we were put on reservations and how we became Christian, and the priests were saying that Lakota Star Knowledge is from Satan. The story that I just told you, the priest said this comes from Satan. I think it's beautiful, because you get a lot of beautiful things from that. Women got 3 gifts, 3 developments that happen in their bodies. And for men to come into balance with that, we get 3 ceremonies, and that healing comes from there. It's all to keep the people together. And it teaches that the cycle of a man and the cycle of a woman are just 2 different cycles, that neither one is better than the other, that neither one is more important. They're both important. This is why ancient Lakota society was not matriarchal, and it was not patriarchal either. It was something different. See, there's that at least 3 perspectives to everything concept appearing. This is coming from Lakota Star Knowledge. This is coming from the ancestors, and I'm only their representative. This is their voice. And I think we really need that in these times. To learn more about Lakota spirituality, I have written a book called Wichocha Otechige. This book also includes Lakota Star Knowledge information. All the videos that I make, which are about Lakota spirituality, Lakota Star Knowledge, and cultural information, are based on this book. This book costs 99 American dollars, and this price includes the shipping cost as well as a tracking number. And to learn more about Lakota language, I have written a Lakota language book called Shante Etaha Owoglake, Speaking from the Heart. And all my Lakota language videos are based on this book. This book cost 119 American dollars, and this price includes the shipping cost as well as a tracking number. I also teach online, And I give spiritual consultations as well. The price for these sessions are $35 American an hour. If you are interested in any of my services and products, you can send payment via PayPal to my email address, which is hehaka7@yahoo.com. That's HEHAKA, the number 7@yahoo.com. And also include your shipping address and your email address when you send your payment. Lila Pilamayelo, thank you very much.